Good evening, everyone. This is Ron. It's Monday afternoon, Monday evening, rather, it's after 6 o'clock. Uh, so we'll go ahead and get started. And as we always do, we will begin with questions. So, does anyone have any questions or comments on from the week or from yesterday or anything?
This is Vermel. On
Yes, ma'am.
yesterday, Sage made the comment that we need to stop thinking change is coming, change is here. And so I'd like to ask you to elaborate a little bit in the sense of, for instance, like today when I went into the building, I said, the change is already here. Interesting enough, there were several events that happened that are kind of, I wouldn't say scary, but in asking for the change, it seems like it's true that if we think change is here, it's here. So I was hoping you'd elaborate a little bit more on how we should accept that without trying to paint a picture or a certain way of it seeming like it's here, if that makes any sense.
Has anyone else experienced what Vermeil just said? The way you do it is the way you did it. You remind yourself that change is not coming, change is here. I am the change. And the reason, of course, I said yesterday, the reason for my saying that, as long as we are looking for something, it doesn't come. As long as we are looking for tomorrow, it doesn't come. However, it's the same principle that took place. I mean, that was said to Abraham. He called those things that were not as though they were. This is not about cause and stuff. This is about humanity. We don't see it with our eyes, but we see it with our eye. And what I mean by see it with our eye, if we did not or desire deep enough for change to manifest itself, then there is no point in us looking for anything to change. I trust that the change is manifested when we embrace that change is here. If we are waiting to see it with our eyes before we can say that, then that's a problem, because change is seen with the eye. And when I say seen, it is an experience more so than something that you can paint a picture of or something that you can articulate to someone. Is more of an experience. I hope that helps. If not, ask me another question, please, someone, or everyone, or someone help me with it.
Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I guess to add a little bit to that, when so whatever that inner condition is that Pastor just mentioned is actually us creating that experience or creating that in physical reality. And so when he said you experience it with the third eye, it's as if you and the third eye is connected, or is the part of your self that is more so connected, well, not more so connected. It's for lack of better words, with this area kind of loose what I'm saying. But anyway, that's essentially the connection to create the creator part of yourself. So when he is saying that change is already here, what it means is you have created that from within yourself. And how we are creators, we create from within ourselves. And then that thing after that is then created in this physical reality. So when we wait for change, what we're actually creating a picture of on the inside is that that change is not here yet. It is that time before that change takes place. And as we continue to wait for change, we continue to, in a sense, keep the change from happening because we are saying within ourselves what the picture that we're painting, the reality that we're creating within is that we're at that period before the change. So now going back to what Pastor Richard said in terms of change is already here, when you embrace that, and what I mean by embrace that is you start to create that reality where the change has already came, then that's when that physical reality is created. So for example, and this is just a very, very, very simple example, if I had not eaten all day and I were to just feel myself as being extremely hungry and starving, it's as if, and this is a very simple example, it's as if that thing is prolonged. But once I am able to create a sense in myself of feeling full and having ate, then that thing has to be created quickly within the physical reality because I am now experiencing within myself that thing that it is that I want to see. But I see it first within. I see it first with my third eye. So yes, for a very, very long time, we have been waiting for change. And part of that has just been how we've been taught to think. Part of it has been religion. It's just we've always been waiting for something, but we haven't. And the reason why nothing, in a sense, ever changes because we're always waiting for it. When the only thing we had to do was change our viewpoint or change our approach was to create, like I said, within, experience within what it feels like after that change has already taken place. But when you wait for change, you're essentially saying that change hasn't happened yet and is absent. I'm finished.
Hey, this is Ron. I want to kind of piggyback off that because mine kind of is the same way. I was reading something earlier this morning about the eyes and what the eyes invite into you. The eyes see desire. The eyes see greed. The eyes and the eyes are what changes your outlook. The eyes are what sets your motivation sometimes. So as Sheldon was talking about the third eye, you learn to see from that perspective. There is a battle that takes place officially, but hopefully the third eye kind of takes over. When you don't see with the third eye and you see or look for change with the eyes, it invites time to have dominion over you. So it is no longer a spiritual thing, or what Pastor and Sheldon describe as a spiritual thing. And we move in that direction because time does not control that. As we have been speaking of the last couple of months, I guess at least longer actually, but when we look at that and see when we talk about returning to beginning and how to operate, being the candle that that doesn't go under the basket. You are operating outside of your physical self, and so you're not being bound by time. But if you wait for anything by not seeing it, you put yourself back into that physical state, and you never escape that because it will never happen. So I just see it that way. And the other thing is the spiritual essence of who we are has always been first. We call this the third eye because we are just becoming familiar with it. And maybe that's the thing that is a barrier to us. Maybe it's the first eye that we never got familiar with. And so as we get familiar with it and see our true self, we understand better, and it becomes our true nature, or go back to it being our true nature, as opposed to being physical and operating that way. So hopefully that kind of ties into what everybody else says and said.
Yeah, and I can give an example of that as well. Before I go forward, everyone on the phone, think about any time that you were stressed out about something, and then after you finally let that thing go, whatever you were stressed out about, and maybe you just like it's an idea where people say you just put it in the hands of the Lord, or you literally just don't care anymore, like you used to be stressed out or cared about whatever thing it is that you wanted. And then once you stopped caring, or really like stopped really trying in a stressful manner, soon after that is when you got the supposed results that you initially wanted and were stressed out about. Okay, what stress is stress is wanting some particular outcome, no matter what that outcome may be, but not having faith, or not believing, or having a great assurance that whatever you want to take place is going to take place. And that's why you have the stress or the anxiety about it. Well, that particular stressing out of the particular situation is essentially helping create the conditions that it is that you don't want, the conditions that you actually fret happening. When you stop creating that condition from within and you let it go, that's when whatever it is that you prefer seems to more so just slide in place naturally. That is what's happening, or what has happened in those situations where we were completely stressed out about something, and then just stop caring and stop stressing about it, for a lack of better terms, and things turned out in what we would consider our favor. I'm finished.
Hello, this is Evelyn. Can y'all hear me?
We can.
Okay. Thank you for Melissa for asking that question. I wish I'd have had this lesson earlier today, because if I hadn't had two windows by my desk, I think I'd have screamed. And they probably would have called 911 on me. But I was looking at things that's on the surface and not looking through the eyes with an S instead of the I. And I needed that. I really needed that today, to hear that today. And I'll take that with me tomorrow. And I know we've been talking about this for the longest, but I really needed to hear this today. And also, isn't it about feeling that the situation has been dealt with? Isn't it about feeling in general? That's my question.
That's the experience. When you sit with something and you get up, You say, okay, it's done. That's it. However, we've talked about this even before we got begun to understand what we understand now. The more energy you give to something, or the more thought you give to it, the more life you give to it. If you keep mulling it over in your head, you're keeping it alive. So if I am looking for change and I keep mulling over my head about when it's going to come, it doesn't come. But when I let it, I'm like, it's already here and I'm done. And I do not allow the distractions to change what I have embraced, regardless of what happens. I remind myself that the change is here. It's done. And then you will have those experiences that Vermeer alluded to earlier when she raised this question. Does that make sense?
It does. And what you just described when you say experiences, I call it the Kathy experience. Because when she brought our attention that she sat with it, then that means that, you dealt with it. That she sat with it and she transformed how she felt about the situation that she was dealing with. So, yeah, I call it the Kathy experience. And, yeah, I hear you. Thank you. Oh, one more thing. Those thoughts, those negative thoughts that come, are those the friends that Job had as well in the Bible?
Yes.
Same thing, same concept. Okay. All right, I got it. Thank you.
And I wanted to add a little bit to that as well. When Pastor was talking about when we talk about those thoughts and those feelings and that experience, the stronger that you feel about whatever it may be, we're just looking at it from a neutral standpoint. Because, well, let's not look at it from a negative standpoint. No matter what it is that we have created, and we have created a lot. Let's look at it as this is how we create our physical reality, and to understand and embrace that, not what we've done in the past. Because anything we create, we can create now, and we can change. So it doesn't even matter how you felt earlier today. I want to say that part first. Now, the stronger we feel about a thing, which means that the livelier we are seeing with that third eye, the livelier, the more energy and life that experience has within us, the more, in a sense, we energize that in bringing it to creation. And so when I say that, that does not mean it's just only if you're boiling hot about something. In the same way, you can be, in a sense, boiling with joy, boiling with vibrancy, even boiling and feeling overwhelmed with peace. But the more that we energize with our experience through our inner selves, through our both thoughts and feelings that work hand in hand, or even if you want to look at it, our feelings about our thoughts, that is us creating physical reality. And then after saying that, I'm going to say it again. It doesn't matter what we even created a few hours ago or moments ago, etc., because nothing is permanent. We are studying, always creating here now in this particular point. That is a gift that we automatically are. I'm finished.
And Sheldon, I'm glad you said it that way, because what you spoke to is Evelyn's questions about Job's friends. See, those those voices, we take it to be negative and we let them beat us down sometimes. But as you say, it doesn't matter. You know who you are, and you know whatever it takes, you keep going forward. You keep walking in what you know to be truth. So and we keep walking in that direction till those voices become infrequent, and we put them all under submission. So yeah, yeah, I think I'm saying the same thing you were saying.
No,
Hope
you
so.
are. Yeah, no, you definitely are. And the thing I wanted to point out is the miraculousness and godliness of it all, and not saying, "Oh, I've created something like terrible," or even I have done. I've created the condition that I'm in, or I see I've done that. The point is to be amazed, like, wow, I controlled this, which is something totally different. And now all of a sudden you can get excited instead of what you can create and what you want to create and what you're going to work towards creating versus what I have created and what I have been creating so long. I'm finished.
I'm sorry, were you finished up?
No, yeah, I'm finished. I forgot to say I'm finished, and then I remember I'm finished.
Think about how people have been taught about naming it and claiming it, taking somebody else's stuff by naming it and claiming it. If people can do that and look forward to getting somebody else's stuff simply because they named it and claimed it, I wonder why would it be so difficult for us to wrap our minds around the reality of we are the change, and being that change, we have to make the decision not to wait to know that it's already here. But I do believe that that's a large part of what Jesus was talking about when he said, "Take no thought for tomorrow, for it has enough trouble of its own to bring its own issues." Just deal with. And we always for some time now, not always, but for quite some time, we have been talking about living in the now. Everything is in the now, inclusive of our desires for change. And now once our desire for change ceases to be simply a desire and become a reality in our hearts and our soul, then that's when it begins to manifest for the benefit of our eyes. I really don't have issues with what is to come. What is to manifest. When we talk about, in 18, when I said that the election is going to have more women are going to be elected than ever before. And it happened, I had no clue about what we're talking about now in terms of our not saying it's coming, and it comes by us accepting that it's already here. But it happened. So why did it happen like that? It happened like that because the reality of everything is that it's already here. We simply have to embrace that reality. And I say simply, but it's not so simple. I'm done.
Hey, Pastor.
Yep.
Can you say it like when Jesus said, "If you believe like I believe, these things can happen"?
You believe like I believe, only will you do what I've done, the greatest thing you shall do.
Sort of like that.
Yeah. Why? Because the things that Jesus did, the things that Jesus talked about, rather, or the things that Jesus did that were happening, and when he spoke about them, he didn't speak about them like they were coming. He spoke as though they were at that moment, and that is because they existed at that moment.
Yeah, that's it.
Question?
So in that case, then our spirit and our heart have to lock on to that.
Yeah, our hearts have to lock onto it instead of letting our minds process it. Our minds have been trained to process things in time and things with the eyes as opposed to the eye. It is not coincidental that when Jesus talked about, well, not only Jesus, when the word "I" was mentioned in Scripture all the time, it was never eyes. It was always "I," and the reason for that we know is because of it's talking about what we call the third eye. And as long as we're looking for it to come, we are actually looking for it with our natural eyes. We're not actually looking for it with our third eye. I hope that makes sense to you guys.
It does. Because it, like, I ain't saying like you dream. You can be in a daze and they call it a dream. When God speaks to you, you see pictures and things. And when you do see those pictures and things, it's almost like you pulling on it into this natural instead of what you saw in the spiritual. You understand what I'm saying, Freya?
I do.
Because you draw heavily onto that to pull it into the physical world when you believe so wholeheartedly.
Yep.
So I have a question. So when you have these thoughts at night, I mean, it's for some reason at night, they just really bombard you. So what's the way to really deal with them at night, or like around 4 o'clock? For some reason, it seems like that's when they come to me, those thoughts, unwanted thoughts. How do I deal with that at night?
How do you deal with them in the daytime? I'm not trying to be funny.
I'm distracted during the day. I have a computer in front of me. I have people around me.
Okay.
That's how I deal with it.
So meditate. Tell yourself that's not me. I'm not going to entertain that. Talk to yourself. And if you do it often enough, you get to the place where it comes easier for you to clear your mind of those thoughts. We have these desires for our minds to be clear of those thoughts, but we have to remind ourselves that for as long as we've been on this earth, that's what we have been experiencing. So it's harder to process with your soul than it is with your mind. So those thoughts, unwanted thoughts that come, that's not who I am. And don't hold them in your head. Does that make sense, Evan?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you, Cedric. Sheldon.
Also, when you have those thoughts, as Pastor was saying, challenge yourself. As he says, you keep on doing it, and you begin to not have those thoughts. Ask yourself, why do you believe the things that you believe, and remind yourself of who you are, who you know you are, and remind yourself that, okay, whatever it is that I'm experiencing I didn't like, I created that, and then started to think about, okay, what do I want to create, and then make up in your mind that, okay, I'm going to decide to experience that right now, as if this is the case. And right then and there, as you are struggling with, as you're first starting to struggle with those thoughts, right then and there, you are in a sense training yourself and working on changing those things. But not only for that one particular thing that it may seem like is a struggle, you are training and changing things in a sense going forward as well. You are teaching yourself how to deal with those situations better, but not only dealing with those types of situations better, you're actually changing what it is that you even create on an everyday level, as you just go by your day in general on a subconscious level. So every time you are in a sense struggling with those particular things, that is an opportunity to face them and change them right then and there. Because if you were not faced with those situations, in a sense, they would actually just lie below the surface, and they would keep on happening, and they will happen on automatic. That's how we have created much of our lives. We have been creating things that we didn't care for on autopilot. So now it's in your conscious mind. Now you are actively deciding, okay, this is what I'm actually doing. I actually don't want to do this. I want to do this instead. And I'm getting better at doing this particular thing. So even being faced with those things at night, in its own sense, is a gift. You get to address it. I'm finished.
I just wanted to add a little piece there, because I kind of went through something very similar, and what dawned on me or what worked for me, and maybe this is something I talked myself into, but it worked, is I would say to myself, okay, you invited this, which says that you are equipped to handle it. This came by no coincidence. This just popped in your head because now is the time to deal with it. You're at your best. You're at your strongest. So deal with it. And if you feel yourself getting frustrated, just remember the best weapon that you have is your breath. Just breathe. Just lay there and breathe. Don't beat yourself up. Don't try to violently throw it out of your head. Just let it pass and just breathe. And you're going to be fine. It's there for a reason, because you want to deal with it. It doesn't master you.
Thank you, Ron.
1,000%.
Before we go any further, I just wanted to check with Ms. Vermeil and see if she had any further comments or questions, because we didn't go back to her. Was she okay with what we said? Or did she have other comments, other question from it?
No, I think everyone filled it out really well for me. And especially Evelyn, thank you for the yelling moment, because I experienced that last week. But yeah, I think it was a great response. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Good discussion. I want to give S a chance to speak. S asked a question on yesterday, and I'm not sure I understood it, and I just wonder if he had a minute to make his question again, or his comment, and let's make sure we're all understand it, because guess I didn't quite understand it. So, S, are you with us? Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm here. And the one thing I know Evelyn did, I'm sorry, Barbara did it really precise, kind of just encompassing everything yesterday when she her last statement. But what I was saying, just distinguishing between when we look at ourselves mentally and what we function as day in, day out, there are a lot of days where we confuse or we get our mindset shifts to sort of where we are at that point in life and not necessarily what our identity is. And so I was just saying that sometimes there's a difference that we always have to draw the line on ourselves to remind us that, where we are at that point is not who we are. And so sometimes we let where we are at that point, what's going on around us, like Evelyn was talking about, things at work and things that kind of affect us day in, day out. There are sort of distractions that are there to kind of strengthen us and to help us, push through. But we get caught up where we are instead of, who we are. And so when you said, we always say it going back to the beginning, I was speaking from the awareness standpoint that we truly become aware of who we are one time. And then I was asking the question of everything from that standpoint really falls back on a memory, sort of a reminding of who we are. But we only get to that place of discovery one time. And I use I was trying to think of an example, but if we find if we create the first match, and we don't know what that match does, but once we strike that match, we now have the awareness of what that match is. And that's sort of a one-time awareness, but that awareness also opens up a lot of possibilities and ways that we can think in our head on how we could use this match, what can we do with this match? So I look at it as that with us, we become aware of who we are, and then from that standpoint, we get exposed and we grow and we think of all the things that we can do, what we can create, what we can, impact, what we can change. But that awareness of their identity is, we discover that once, but then moving forward, all the other things that confront us or step between us and reminding us of that, those are the things that we become aware of who we are once, but then we understand all the possibilities that we have. And so we sort of discover the power we have, but we become aware of the source once. And then from there, we grow in power, we grow in strength because of what we face day in and day out. But I think when we go back to the beginning, we go back to the awareness of who we are, the understanding of who we are, but we necessarily aren't. And now it's sort of a bigger question. We're not necessarily being reborn, but renewed and aware. And as things begin to expand for us, it becomes, easier to bring things into a state of function than always a state of dysfunction. And that's the difference between, and everyone doesn't become aware at the same time. So a lot of times we're helping. That's why it's so powerful to understand our true identity. And so from that identity discovery, we're always able to move, to grow, to strengthen, to expand. And so that's what I was sort of saying, that the true back to the beginning happens one time. And once we're aware that we're Elohim, and we grow with that role and discovering all the things we can do, sort of like that match. When you know that match can start a fire or strike it, then you know what the match is. You know it's a match, but then you also figure out all the things that you can do with this match, if that makes sense. But that's sort of what I was sort of asking and kind of putting together yesterday, if we think of it in that way, versus, because I think sometimes we take the power away from ourselves by sort of saying that all the little things can make us stumble. But I think Rev said it yesterday too, where those little things don't look like stumbles, they're strengthening us. And so I guess I was just really not wanting to take the power of who we are away from it, if that makes sense.
Okay. I see what you mean. I understand now what you were saying. So the every episode of going back to beginning, then you go back to beginning once you make sure I understand. Once you have that rebirth or that newness, that your eyes are open, that new place of awareness, you're saying from that point on, it's just a refreshing, because you never forget that you're not the same place. And from there, so each growth then, or each time that you need to be replenished or re-energized, it's not necessarily a returning to beginning. It is just that. It's just.
Well, it's a reminder, and it's once we discover we're Elohim, everything from that point is a reminder of who we are, and then once we're reminded, okay, this is who I am, then none of that matters, because whether it's change, whether it's the ability to transform something, the ability to create, it doesn't matter, because it's already there. It's already been created. We just have to activate it. So it's like once you understand who you are, I can never tell you, okay, you're not wrong. Once you understand that you're wrong, that identity is there. So there may be things that you perceive as a stumble or things that slow you down, but they're not really doing that. They're there for your good, and you just have to just remind yourself who you are, because all those things you're functioning and expanding of your capabilities, I guess, let's say. So when we say go back, you're just really saying, just reminisce, have that memory of who you are. So that's what I'm saying.
I see what you're saying. I see that in Nicodemus, when Jesus said that he had to return to beginning. Nicodemus did not know that he was actually searching for himself, because Nicodemus didn't ask Jesus anything about being born again or baptized. He said, we know you are a teacher who's sent by God. No one can teach like this unless they have been sent by God. And Jesus responded by saying, you must be born again before you can see the kingdom of God. So what he's saying to Nicodemus is, you must return to beginning in order to find yourself. And once you find yourself, once you see who you are, now your return return to begin, as Ron said, it's a refreshing. And what you're actually doing is seeing more and more of who you are. You're seeing a clearer picture of who you are. And once that picture is set within you, now you begin to function as the entity that you saw yourself to be. Is that what you're saying is?
Yes, because if we say we always go back to the beginning, then we were never who we were, who we thought we were. But once we know who we are, then it's really just a refresher reminder that, okay, here are my capabilities. I just have to remind myself that I have to do it based on who I am, And but you know, to this present day, we get sidetracked with our environment. And so sometimes we think that the environment is identifying us, and we get away from, functioning as who we are. But when we say go back to the beginning, once the discovery is made, then from there it's merely just a refresher or just reminding who we are, because we didn't, like Jesus, we didn't relinquish the power. We just really sort of deactivated it, or just tried to function in a different way. But you just always go back and function as who you are, and it's just that reminder of, if someone is if you're a swimmer, you're aware of your swimming, then you can stay out of the water for 20 years. But once you fall back into that water, you're still the swimmer, and that, and so you're still able to function as it, even though you hadn't performed that role or become that swimmer for a while. So it's sort of like we take ourselves out of our power, and we just kind of function as less than who we are. But we can, once you make that discovery, it's already here, and it's just a matter of doing it.
Okay. I want to go back to what the question that Vermeil raised. If anyone else, unless if someone else has something else to just offer a question about what Esther brought forth.
This is Angela. I wanted to share something. It's sort of on the lines of what we've been discussing on the line. This morning, before I woke up, I had a dream. I saw it was an image of man. It was two images. One image of man was like, it's not in the dead sense, but it was like more like kind of like you couldn't see the breath, the spirit. And then on the other image of man, you could see the breath. You can just see the breath pumping. And so right before I woke up, I remember seeing water running, and I said, I am one. So I woke up, and as I'm getting up, getting ready for work, and as I'm going in there to brush my teeth, it came back, and I turned the water on, which I was brushing my teeth, and as I was bending down, it came back, and I said, I am one, and the water was running. So the first image that I saw when I woke up was me. So I don't know if that, I feel like the image represents me, reminding me of, who I am. But if anybody else see any more to what I'm saying, but that's all I wanted to share.
All I see is you being reminded of who you are. That's it. You're one with the universe. Anyone else?
All I wanted to add is keep in mind when we have dreams and images, or whatever you feel and whatever you see at that time is what it is. So if it's, you see it as yourself, an image of yourself, and as unity, as a spirit, then that's what it is. Your thoughts and feelings are extremely important at that time. So you have the right; it is yours, and you are the owner of it. So what do you see it as? Is what it's going to be.
I got it. Thank you.
Does that help, Angela?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Anyone else before
I
return?
I just want to add something. On yesterday, when we were looking at eternal life, I I see that as a function. It's a verb. It's an action, and it, is an action as an agent for the creator, an agent for the universe. You become that. So as I'm understanding what S said, that is, these things come as a result of your being, quote unquote, born again or returning to beginning. So the growth part that comes after that, we would not be at this place then if we had not had that initial rebirth, I guess, or returning to beginning. So everything that has happened after that is a result of that first initial surge of energy. And from that point on, you grow and your awareness increases, with that being the base or the principal part of who you are. Is that, am I seeing this right? Is that what he's trying to say? Because we keep seeing more and more stuff. So the more and more is not returning to beginning, that it's just being added on the fact that we have accepted who we are, and that takes us to different places or different levels of awareness.
That's what I was talking about when I said that we began to get a clearer picture of who we are and began to function that way. See, I think we talked about this at one time. In the East, they don't use adjectives to describe stuff. They use verbs. They talk about the action, what it does, as opposed to what it looks like. And once we began to see who we are, now what does that look like? What's the functionality of that? And the functionality of that is to bring harmony to humanity. Now, what does that look like? We'll know when we embrace it. One of the things that I think makes it difficult for us to accept the reality that change is already here is that we watch too much news. We base change on what we see in the news. If Trump or McConnell or some white supremacist does something, first thing comes to our mind is, when are things going to change? When does this stop? Those are the type of distractions that causes us to look for change with our eyes instead of experiencing change within. And when we experience change within, that opens not only our eyes, but it opens the hearts and eyes of humanity. But we have to persevere in that. We can't get set back every time something else happens. Matter of fact, I do believe that a lot of what happens, we are responsible for it, because we are not truly embracing that change is here already. And the more we put it off, the more stuff going to happen. Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense, and that's a good observation. You're exactly right, and I'm guilty of that. I let the news put me in a certain place. You're exactly right.
And that is allowing the very thing that you seek and change in to change you. So
thank you for that, Pastor.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you're right.
So rather than waiting for events to change, you change. If you love, act like it. If you believe that you are the change, don't get upset when your eyes see something. They who remain in the place where you are, and that place is the realm of the spirit, seeing with your eye as opposed to your eyes. Close your eyes so you can truly see. Turn the news off if that's your obstacle. Any questions about that or comments?
I guess that's the way to just describe I guess what I was trying to say about the environment.
Okie dokie.
Mm-hmm.
Someone sent me a question, and that question was, what does it mean when the scripture says, to whom much is given, much is required? Anyone want to speak to that? We have been taught that to whom much is given, much is required, is looking at what we have. We have been taught, we've been seeing it materially with our eyes. However, just like everything else is spiritual truth. And we have been given much insight. We've been given a lot of insight. And we are responsible for sharing what we see. It is required not only that we share what we see, it is also required that we live what we see. And that coincides with what I was saying about disallowing the things you see with your eyes to cause you to look for change as opposed to seeing it. We have a very, very serious responsibility. And honestly, when Ron talks about, and I mentioned it at one point, that we're the only people that we know who does what we do. That comes with tremendous responsibility. We don't have a right to make efforts to keep it to ourselves and hide it from others. And we don't have a right to say today what we believe and live something else tomorrow. It is we are obligated to not only be functional with what we are shown, but we are also obligated to help each other function as Elohim also. What do I mean by that? If I'm saying something that has religious overtones or has political overtones and has nothing to do with or denying rather who we are, then I should be corrected by someone, because there are so many ways to deny who we are without saying we deny it. When we embrace who we really are, then we work on the struggle that we have with allowing news stories or people around us to determine how we feel. Another way we say that is we are in denial is when we say, when are things going to change? That's in denial that they are going to change or that they have already changed. And it's very difficult to talk in the present about things that we don't see with our eyes. We have to train ourselves to do that. We have to teach ourselves how to do that. Every time that I hear something that a Lindsey Graham says, what I see is change. That to me is change. Even though it sounds like it's not, it is change. And the change that I see in that is when he spoke, when he spoke, all he did was bring about a change in how people think and function in relationship to bringing humanity to a place of balance. If we see it as being something negative, then everything Trump did is negative. And every time I see him say something, I see change. I can't always describe it, but I feel it deeply that it is change. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure it does.
Yes.
And we have to talk to ourselves like that. This is change. This is the change that we have been looking for or longing for. It's right in front of us. This is it. It's manifesting.
Mm.
And let me show you what I mean. If change is fruit dying on the vine, then every time you see a rotten spot on that fruit get bigger, you see that it's dying. Every time you hear negativity, racism, that's change, because people's minds are being changed by what's being said. So that's the change that's right in front of us. The change that's right in front of us was also the death of George Floyd, and the change that we saw, the change with the Queen is what we saw. What's there? How is that change? When India says or South Africans say we want our diamonds back, that's change. That's the change we're looking for. It's already here. Does that make sense?
Yes.
The change because they never would have said that in the past. That's all I'm saying. So, again, to whom much is given, much is required. We have a huge requirement on us because of what we've been shown.
I think you what you describe is a mindset, a different mindset, but the mindset is already taken place. I think what Ed said tonight was an eye opener to me. And if you see that I am, then the possibilities of anything is there. So as my background and actually the catalyst that pushes everything else forward, then I readily see what you're saying. I had not seen that before or thought about it from that perspective, but now that you lay it out, put it out there, I can see that. And it's not so much that I need to, again, talk myself into it or see it from the perspective that I struggle with being Elohim. This is easier because I am Elohim. It's just something I had not seen before.
Right. Anyone else? I hope that answers the question. I hope it's clear with where we are, and I hope that it gives us the incentive to change our mindset. I'm done.
Great discussion. Is there anyone there no comments? I
Yeah,
certainly
I
hope
wanted-
all of you. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Not a problem. I wanted to add one last thing. Yesterday and today, we mentioned those pitfalls that we have, but I wanted to say that those pitfalls too are, in a sense, a gift. All those little roadblocks. Someone who is an expert at something is someone who has managed to fail or understands how to fail in many different ways. In a sense, they understand exactly what doesn't work or has a great idea of what doesn't work, as well as precisely how something does work. So in each one of those pitfalls or hurdles, etc., with them comes much, the overcoming of them comes much more learning and growth in each and every single one of those. I'm finished.
Yeah, I agree. Anyone else? Questions or comments?
I have a comment on like what Red was talking about. It's just like this country used to send a lot of stuff in other countries, send factories in the other countries. When that pandemic hit, they lost a lot of their stuff over there and their factory. But now they're bringing everything back over here to make.
That's change.
Yeah. All right. It's a little after 7. And we've talked about a lot tonight, so maybe a good stopping point if no one else has a question or comment. Okay.
I'm done.
Okay. Well, I hope everyone got their question answered satisfactory. I always appreciate the questions, but if you don't want to say them out loud, I like the fact that someone said pass your question by text. So let's keep them coming. That kind of I like that. That was a good question, and I sincerely hope everyone has a great week, and look forward to seeing you Saturday. And thanks again for the evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
Pastor.
Bye, everybody.
Bye,
Bye, everybody.
Good evening.